I'd like to withdraw $11 billion. Amy, a recently graduated bank employee at a large bank, gave me a sarcastic smile when I mentioned this. Excuse me, is this some bottom-tier company going bankrupt? Calling my business subpar? I had to giggle because it was so ridiculous. If my company is bottom tier, then every company dealing with your bank falls under the same category, don't they? What's making you laugh? That is really eerie. Amy scowled when she saw that I was laughing coolly rather than becoming angry. They taught you who I am, didn't they? You deliberately lack preparation. Who are you? Now it appeared that things were beginning to move. Amy was so focused on me that she was unaware of the movement behind her. I looked at the staff assembling behind her and spoke louder. I'm closing an account worth $100 billion. Wait, 100 billion? I tried to tell you several times who I am, but you just mocked me without listening properly. It was funny to see Amy's shocked expression as she looked about at the staff gathered. This bank might collapse, you know. Susan Smith is my name. I'm 52 years old, and I own a sandwich shop called Bloom. We serve delectable sandwiches with the idea that you'll still want more after you're full. I work at another job in addition to running the sandwich restaurant. However, at the moment, I'm enjoying managing the store and using my days to look up recipes for delectable sandwiches and components. Greetings. Avocado mayonnaise sandwiches are the special of the day. Customers flooded in as soon as the store opened. Large firms encircle the neighborhood. Thus, many office workers also visited that day. Avocado mayo is the new special. A chat started with a young woman customer who had been frequenting the business since the spring. To be honest, I let have a small side to myself, thinking, she's back. Her aura was bold and aggravating, despite her youthful appearance and attractive face. Hello. That's correct. Please try it out. How much is it? The price is $5. As anticipated, she said, make it $4, which confirmed my uneasy impression. Isn't that a new item? I'll give it a taste test. I'm sorry, but we can't offer discounts to individual customers. Why not? I'm willing to assess whether it's excellent enough to be a regular menu item. I could only keep quiet because I had no need for such judgment. She crossed her arms, glared at me, and snorted. I told you before, negotiations over price are difficult, as I mentioned. Are you unaware of what customer service is? Despite the fact that it's not very good, I visit here every day. Every time she visited, this consumer insisted on receiving excessive treatment, freebies, or discounts. Other customers gave me irritated looks as she raised her voice in exasperation, despite my gentle attempts to explain that it was not possible. At least occasionally give me free toppings. Don't I come here every day? Customers in the shop looked visibly exasperated. After making her unreasonable demands and realizing I wouldn't comply, she'd leave, or so I thought. But that day, she ended up ordering 3 sandwiches, including the avocado mayo special, along with soup and toppings. She shamelessly ate them in the shop. What is this avocado mayo? It's awful. As usual, she didn't forget to complain. But she ate everything without leaving a bite before walking out with her scathing critique. What is she even trying to accomplish? It seemed more customers were opting for takeout, likely to avoid sharing space with her during their lunch breaks. Despite my attempts to subtly warn her, her behavior only escalated, making the atmosphere unpleasant for everyone. However, what happened next opened an unexpected door that would solve this issue, something I never imagined. It all tied back to my other job, unrelated to running this sandwich shop. One day, as I was about to close the shop, that same customer walked in again. A ham and cheese sandwich and a club sandwich. I had no choice. There was still bread left, and I saw the woman already heading to the table in the back. Reluctantly, I decided to take her order. If I refused, she'd probably raise her voice in frustration again, and I didn't have the energy to deal with that. Since I was working alone that evening, it was just the two of us in the shop. She might cause trouble when leaving again. With that thought, I quickly took down the shop curtain and brought the sandwiches to her. Here you go. Thanks for waiting. Hey, about these sandwiches. Thinking she was about to complain, I braced myself. But instead, she said something unexpected. Teach me how to make them. Excuse me. Well, our recipes are kind of a trade secret. Our sandwiches don't fall apart easily, so customers often ask how we make them. But it's not something I can explain in a single sentence. For anyone not serious about learning, I usually say it's a trade secret, and they leave it at that. Why is the bread so crisp? And how do the fillings stay in place so perfectly? That's what I'm asking. Her question was so basic that I was both baffled and surprised. Maybe try using sandwich molds. They're available for sale. No way. It has to be handmade. That's the only way to impress a man, right? For some reason, she glared at me, leaving me at a loss. At the same time, I was surprised to think that even this ill-tempered, irritable woman might have a boyfriend. Write down a clear guide on how to make your sandwiches. Got it? No, we don't offer that kind of service. I made a troubled face, but it clearly wasn't going to work on someone like her. And today, you'll give me a discount, right? She grinned smugly, and I saw yet another haggling attempt. Supermarkets discount their food after certain hours, so you should do the same. As expected, she demanded both a recipe and a discount. Finally, fed up with her arrogance, I decided to push back. In that case, how about buying all the leftover toppings and sandwiches? Are you trying to offload unsold items onto a customer? Do you think a business provides services for no reason or purpose? Every shop offers service based on its own policies. Feeling I had stood my ground, I walked away from the table. Not long after, the woman left in a huff, clearly irritated. If I never see a customer like her again, it'll be too soon. I felt utterly drained as I went to clean her table, only to be shocked by what I found. The table was littered with garbage. Apparently, her ever-present bag had been stuffed with trash. I cleaned up, marveling at the sheer amount of it. If she showed up again, I resolved to tell her not to return. The next day, I found myself running to the bank while still wearing my sandwich shop apron. I'd realized that the lease for the shop space was about to be renewed, and I needed to deposit $30,000 that very day. Planning to take care of it as soon as the bank opened, I left the morning prep to my staff and rushed out. I arrived at Summit Bank's main branch, a bank I had a long-standing relationship with through my other job. After taking the queue ticket and waiting a while, a female teller stood up and called my number. As I approached the counter, I couldn't hide my surprise. The teller was, "Hello, I didn't know you worked at this bank." It was the same abrasive, ill-tempered customer from my shop. Hearing my voice, the woman glanced at me. That's when I noticed her name tag and learned her name was Amy. Deciding to put aside the littering incident for now, I greeted her politely. "I'm sorry about the other day, not being able to teach you the sandwich recipe." "Never mind that. What's your business here?" She had been all smiles with other customers, but when addressing me, she frowned and spoke curtly. Her expression was intimidating, and I couldn't help but stammer in response. "Well, I'd like to withdraw $30,000. As I said this, while pulling out my bank card, Amy gave me a visibly exasperated look. "Oh, for a withdrawal of that amount, we need to check with the branch manager." "Really? Then could you ask them as soon as possible? I'm quite busy since I need to open my sandwich shop soon." "Sure, please wait here." The bank had just opened, and it was already bustling with customers. The counters looked very busy. Still, I thought I'd be able to get back in time to open my shop at 11:30. Naturally, that's what I assumed. But even after 30 minutes, then an hour, my name wasn't called. Thinking this was odd, I decided to gently ask Amy what was happening. "Excuse me, About the $30,000 withdrawal. Has the branch manager. Oh, the branch manager. They're actually running late today. Please wait a little longer. Amy didn't even make eye contact, nor did she apologize. Her cold, indifferent tone was starting to irritate me. Wait a minute. When is the branch manager supposed to arrive? As Amy began calling the next customer, I hurriedly asked. Who knows? I'll let you know if I find out. She moved on to the next customer. Apparently, I had no choice but to wait. I tried to calm my growing frustration and waited another hour. Before opening, I had to prepare the ingredients, bread, and side dishes. Even though a staff member was there to help, I couldn't leave everything to them. While getting instructions over the phone, I continued to wait impatiently for another hour. It had already been 3 hours since I arrived at the bank. By lunchtime, the bank had quieted down significantly, with only a few customers left. I noticed Amy was about to leave her counter. Feeling desperate, I approached another staff member walking around the floor. Excuse me, is the branch manager still not here? I heard they were running late. The staff member's response was surprising. The branch manager has been here the entire time and wasn't late at all. I glanced toward the person they pointed out and was taken aback. The branch manager was a woman I didn't recognize. That's when I remembered. The former branch manager had visited one of my other workplaces to announce their departure. While I was processing this, the new branch manager left the area. Hey, Amy. I called out loudly to Amy, who was still near the counter. Oh, you're still here. It seems the branch manager already arrived. Don't it seems me. I just heard from someone else that the branch manager wasn't late at all. Really? That's what I heard. Maybe there was a mistake. Her casual grin made it clear this was no mistake. It was deliberate. Anyway, go talk to the branch manager about my $30,000 withdrawal right now. There's no need to ask them. What are you talking about? Earlier, you said large withdrawals require the branch manager's approval. Anger bubbled up inside me as I realized how much of my valuable preparation time had been wasted. Despite my frustration, Amy remained as smug as ever. When I pressed her for an explanation, she casually replied, I was prioritizing other important customers. What important customers? I'm a customer too. I was about to mention that I wasn't just a sandwich shop owner when another customer arrived. Amy immediately turned on her charm, smiling warmly at them. Left with no choice, I stepped away from the counter. Spotting the same floor staff member from earlier, I approached them again. My name is Susan Smith. Could you please call the branch manager for me? Upon hearing my name, the staff member's eyes widened. They seemed far more informed about customers than Amy. The staff quickly returned, apologizing and explaining that the branch manager had stepped out. I thanked them and turned to glare at Amy, who was now smiling brightly as she assisted another customer. My anger solidified my decision. If the branch manager wasn't available, I'd confront Amy directly. I approached her counter. Amy noticed me and made a face that seemed to say, "Not this annoying customer again." I looked her straight in the eye and said firmly, "I'd like to withdraw $10 billion. Amy responded with a mocking smile. A stingy sandwich shop owner like you couldn't possibly withdraw that much money. Even a new employee like me knows that much. I can withdraw it. Just go and tell the branch manager. Understood." Still showing no signs of belief, Amy let slip something she really shouldn't have said. What? Is your bottom-tier company going bankrupt? Being called a bottom-tier company made me laugh instead. If my company is a bottom-tier one, then every company doing business with this bank falls under the same category, wouldn't you say? What are you laughing at? That's so creepy. Amy frowned, clearly unsettled by my mocking laughter. Have you not been told who I am? That's a serious lack of preparation. Oh? Who are you supposed to be? Despite my repeated attempts to tell her that I have 2 jobs, Amy refused to listen, and she was about to face the consequences of her ignorance. Amy focused on me, completely unaware of what was happening behind her. I noticed the gathering employees and spoke up in a loud, clear voice. I'm closing an account worth $100 billion. What? $100 billion? Her jaw dropped as she glanced at the growing crowd of employees around us, clearly realizing this was no ordinary situation. That's right. My name and the closure of a $100 billion account. Relay that to the branch manager, and everything will make sense. This bank might even collapse. I gave Amy a smile and left the bank. That evening, Amy brazenly showed up at my sandwich shop. I was amazed by her sheer nerve. You got a lot of guts to come here, don't you? From her demeanor, it was clear she hadn't come to apologize. I was a bit startled when you mentioned $100 billion, she admitted. But the more I think about it, the more ridiculous it seems. She looked around the shop as she spoke. It was understandable that she wouldn't believe it, thinking I was merely a sandwich shop owner. I considered explaining, but changed my mind. Just then, a black car pulled up outside the shop. Amy, facing away, didn't notice, but I immediately recognized who had arrived. A woman in a black suit skirt stepped out, exuding an aura of authority. She glanced at me briefly before heading toward the back of the shop. She's an egg, and also pickles. Ignoring what had happened earlier, Amy ordered a sandwich and, as usual, made an audacious demand. You should give me the pickle sandwich for free. You lied and startled me earlier, after all. It wasn't a lie. And if I came to the bank, that excellent floor staff probably informed the branch manager. Oh, shut up. Right now, I'm a customer, aren't I? If you don't offer me good service, I'll spread bad rumors about this place. As Amy smirked, the woman in the black suit skirt quietly approached her. Don't you think it's incredibly rude to demand special treatment? The woman's commanding presence made Amy freeze. This woman was my younger sister, Kate. I had already told her about Amy, the troublesome customer, and informed her of the incident at the bank earlier. She had come to hear the full story, but ended up running into Amy herself. Without revealing any surprise, Kate cornered Amy. You clearly have no idea what kind of place this shop truly is, do you? What kind of place? Isn't it just a sandwich shop? Kate chuckled knowingly and continued, Is bargaining over a small amount of money really that much fun? This is why I can't stand cheap people. She intentionally mocked Amy, laughing exaggeratedly to provoke her. Stung by the insult, Amy took the bait and lashed out. It's not about the money. I just want to make people do as I say. Make people do as you say. So you're not actually seeking better service? Exactly. Between someone toiling in a tiny shop like this and me, an employee at a prestigious bank, it's obvious who's superior. Commoners should obey elites. Now that she'd started, Amy couldn't stop herself and continued her tirade. I work at Summit Bank, a prestigious institution. I've worked hard to become part of the elite. Amy looked at us with an expression that screamed, How about that? Both Kate and I couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? Why are you laughing too? You really don't get it, do you? I'm not just the manager of a sandwich shop. Fine, I'll visit your so-called prestigious bank tomorrow and show you. My confident tone finally seemed to unsettle Amy, making her suspect there was more to me than she realized. Well, it's not like anything you say here will get me in trouble. Then feel free to keep thinking that way. Kate and I escorted Amy out, and I firmly told her one last thing. Don't come back here again. Not that you could even if you wanted to. As Kate and I stared her down, something seemed to dawn on Amy. Wait, could it be your sisters? It seems I was too late to realize it. The next day, instead of wearing my apron, I went to the bank dressed in a suit similar to Kate's. Although we were in a position where the bank should be the one visiting us, Kate and I deliberately entered through the main front entrance together. The employees greeting customers seemed overwhelmed by our presence, whispering among themselves. From where we stood, I could see Amy sitting at the front counter. Ignoring the number ticket system, we walked straight to Amy's counter. Amy, noticing the sound of our heels clicking, looked up and froze when she saw me, not in my usual apron, but in a sharp black suit. I caught her completely off guard. "Did you actually come here?" Amy barely managed to speak, her face visibly pale. "Of course. As I told you yesterday, I'm here to close the 100 billion account." Seeing me say this so confidently, she must have realized I wasn't an ordinary person. Amy was visibly trembling and seemed unable to speak further. "I am Susan Smith of the S&T Group. Call the branch manager immediately." "Wait, S&T Group? As in the multinational trading company?" "Yes, exactly. Didn't I tell you yesterday? Running a sandwich shop isn't my only job." Amy was completely deflated, her eyes darting around nervously. Noticing this, a floor staff member who had been watching quickly realized who we were and offered to escort us to the back. In the meeting room we were taken to, the female branch manager introduced earlier by the staff walked in. We deeply apologize for the repeated discourtesy of our employees. As she spoke, the branch manager glanced at me twice. Realizing that I was also the sandwich shop owner, it became clear she was one of my customers. I never imagined that the sandwich shop manager was affiliated with the S&T Group. To this, I replied, shaking my head in disbelief. "You haven't even come to introduce yourself since taking this position." I was informed that the branch manager had changed. "Well, I've just been so busy, and for that, I truly apologize." Her excuse was outrageous. Claiming she was too busy to make introductions demonstrated how little she understood the significance of our company as a client. Well, it seems like the branch manager matches the quality of that employee, doesn't it? Kate muttered under her breath. I nodded firmly. "We're here for one reason. We're moving the $100 billion we deposited in this bank. Complete the procedure immediately." At that moment, a woman who introduced herself as the vice president entered with another executive and a pale-faced Amy. On behalf of both our staff and the branch manager, we sincerely apologize for this series of mistakes. The vice president was a woman, and I remembered seeing the news when she became the bank's first female vice president. Well, that's certainly the case, especially since this newly hired employee kept me waiting for 3 hours and even lied to me. It seemed Amy had confessed to everything. The vice president continued to apologize for her employee's mistakes. Suddenly, a childlike sobbing echoed through the room. But I didn't know she was such an important person. Instead of apologizing, Amy started crying, leaving me too stunned to respond. I also failed in my supervision. I'm truly sorry. Even the branch manager apologized, with tears in her eyes. Noticing this, the vice president addressed both of them while continuing to apologize to us. "You two, tears have no place in the business world. Before you cry, acknowledge your mistakes and apologize properly." I was relieved that the vice president still had some sense. She's absolutely right. Crying in a situation like this is just pathetic. That's why women aren't taken seriously. As sisters who succeeded our father's position, we've lost count of how many times we were questioned if women could handle the role. Hearing this, the two wiped their tears. We deeply apologize for everything. Enough with the apologies. What was the meaning behind your ridiculous behavior toward me? It seemed the issues extended beyond what happened at the bank. The vice president glared at Amy, while the branch manager nervously looked at her. I was annoyed because she wouldn't teach me how to make her sandwiches, and she even scolded me at the shop. And on top of that, they wouldn't give me a discount despite me going there. That's it. It was just a bit of stress relief and a childish prank. Her explanation about stress relief seemed connected to her "commoners should obey elites" comment. Still, her excuse sounded more like a child's reasoning. So I asked her, "How did you even come to relieve your stress at a sandwich shop?" Well, it wasn't much of a place, and the staff were mostly older women. Amy's comment made both Kate and me burst out laughing. On the other hand, the vice president glared at Amy, who had blatantly dismissed my shop as nothing special, while the branch manager kept apologizing profusely. If I had known from the start that you were connected to such a large corporation, I never would have done this. So my shop is nothing special, according to her. We're just a couple of middle-aged women laughing. I nodded at Kate's words and decided to educate Amy thoroughly. Listen carefully. The person next to me is Kate Smith, the fifth-generation CEO of the SNT Group, and I am Susan Smith, the executive vice president. Our group has deposited $100 billion in this bank. Middle-aged women as executives, and really, a $100 billion deposit. That's right. Now, can you imagine what would happen if we moved all $100 billion out of this bank? Amy's face turned even paler. Bankruptcy. Exactly. I specialize in managing these deposits, and it's entirely up to me where and how our funds are moved. Amy collapsed to the ground as if her strength had left her, while the branch manager turned pale. Kate added with a smile, "By the way, you mentioned that the shop was full of middle-aged women. Those women are all wives of CEOs from our affiliate companies." That's right. The sandwich shop is just a hobby of mine, and these CEO wives help out as a form of social engagement. I nodded at Kate's explanation, revealing the truth behind the shop. Amy, now visibly aged despite being young, turned to us with a look of disbelief. We sincerely apologize for the lack of proper training and transition. It was a failure on our part. After our discussion ended, the vice president and another executive profusely apologized. As for the future of these two individuals, we will proceed according to your judgment. We assure you that we will implement thorough training for all employees to ensure this never happens again. Could you grant us one more chance? Hearing the vice president's plea, Kate and I exchanged glances. Very well. Show us what you consider the best course of action, I said, leaving the decision to the vice president. Depending on their decision, we were prepared to move the $100 billion, and it seemed they understood that. Hearing this exchange, Amy, trembling uncontrollably, suddenly shouted, "I'm truly sorry." We ignored her words and turned to the vice president, maintaining a firm stance. "You have 3 days. We'll await your response." We calmly exited the meeting room, leaving them behind. That evening, while at the sandwich shop, I was surprised to see an unexpected visitor. "I'm truly sorry for everything." Amy stood before me, pale-faced, apologizing. But what good would that do now? As I said earlier, we've left everything to the vice president's judgment. Seeing that I was unyielding, Amy began to tear up again. I finally got into a mega bank, and at the headquarters, no less. That's unfortunate. You shouldn't have come to my shop in the first place. I came because your sandwiches were delicious. Making something so good ruined my life. Still blaming others. I was exasperated and decided to set her straight. Your narrow-mindedness, biased thinking, and self-centered arrogance brought this upon you. Hit by my words, Amy seemed at a loss for a retort. By the way, I hadn't intended to mention it, but now I felt like telling her everything. You wanted to learn how to make sandwiches because you had a crush on one of my customers, didn't you? I had noticed her sending longing glances toward one of the shop's regulars and assumed it was for a romantic interest. That's not true. Oh, is that so? Well, I'm glad to hear it. I already told him everything about your misbehavior. No way. You're 100 years too early to even think about falling in love after causing so much trouble for others. With Amy now sobbing again, I kicked her out of the shop and firmly rolled down the shutters. The next day, before the deadline, the vice president contacted us at SNT Group's headquarters. the vice president and another executive delivered their decision. Amy has been transferred to a regional subsidiary, and the branch manager has been demoted and reassigned to a bank in the Asian market. A subsidiary meant Amy was no longer a bank employee. Remembering how she flaunted her position at the mega bank's headquarters, Kate and I exchanged approving nods. The branch manager has been sent far away. It's a fitting decision for taking responsibility. Let's decide to hold off on moving the $100 billion. The vice president once again expressed her gratitude and apologies before leaving, and I felt a deep sense of relief knowing I had finally succeeded in getting rid of the troublesome customer. Time passed, and peace returned to my daily life. One day, while working at the sandwich shop, I overheard an unexpected conversation between customers. Apparently, they were talking about employees from Summit Bank, and I caught bits and pieces mentioning Amy and the branch manager. From what I gathered, Amy had been disliked within the bank. When she was transferred to the subsidiary, no farewell party or even a goodbye was held for her. As for the branch manager, they had hurriedly transferred overseas to an affiliated bank in Asia without saying a word of farewell. I found it interesting to hear how their actions reflected their true character, but it was already a matter of the past. It had nothing to do with me, and the memory quickly faded into the distance. About half a year later, I heard some surprising news. Amy had reportedly retired from her job at the subsidiary due to marriage. The source of this information was a female employee from Summit Bank who knew about my run-ins with Amy. She shared the news while buying a sandwich. According to her, Amy's husband was the heir of a well-known company. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of man would marry someone like Amy. But as if reading my thoughts, the bank employee provided more details. It turned out her husband was an arrogant and difficult man, and Amy was now facing considerable hardships. Worse yet, she was stuck in the marriage, as her in-laws, who were very strict, refused to allow a divorce. Living with her domineering in-laws, she was treated more like a housemaid than a wife. It seemed that Amy had been blinded by her husband's prestigious title as an heir and failed to see his true nature. A mistake only she could make. But this was no longer my concern. Or so I thought. Until one day, I spotted Amy again. Our sandwich shop had been doing well, and we had opened a second location. To my surprise, Amy walked into the new shop. She looked haggard and completely unlike the wife of a corporate heir. I quietly observed her as she ordered the cheapest ham sandwich and began haggling over the price. At first, I was annoyed, but I quickly realized this was no longer her old habit of bargaining for fun. She was genuinely struggling and desperate to save every penny. Reluctantly, I agreed to her request, only for her to notice me and freeze in shock. In that instant, I regretted showing her any kindness. Executive Vice President, please let me work here. Tears streaming down her face, Amy began to plead about how miserable her married life was and how she had been mistreated. She confessed that her rushed decision to marry had only led to unhappiness. I became a CEO's wife too, so I should be qualified to work here, right? How could she still be so shameless? Depending on others won't bring you happiness, and I have no intention of working with someone I can't trust. I flatly rejected her. Just then, a luxury car pulled up outside the shop. A man in the driver's seat gestured for Amy to get in. Handing him my Ascenti Group business card, I said, "Please ensure your wife never comes to this shop again." I wanted nothing more to do with her. The driver, recognizing my name, quickly understood the situation. He nodded before driving away with Amy. Watching the car disappear into the distance, I finally felt that the matter was truly behind me. Both sandwich shops continued to thrive. Why not bring the sandwich business under S&T Group's umbrella if it grows any bigger? Kate joked with a playful smile. I quickly retorted, I won't make it any bigger. I want to keep making the sandwiches myself. Leaving most of the corporate management to Kate, I had achieved my dream. Without her support, My selfish desires would never have come true, and I felt nothing but gratitude toward her. I understand. Just take care of yourself, okay? You're still responsible for the company's key operations. Smiling, I nodded, silently promising to continue supporting Kate as we steered our large company together. I hoped that our parents in heaven were watching over us with smiles, proud of what we had become.
I was drenched in sweat, wearing my new suit. Even though the interviewer's words were all very straightforward, being scrutinized like this caused my tongue to move as though it belonged to someone else. Why didn't you think about going to college? That's because I wanted to spend that time on programming. So you just wanted to do what you like, right? That's what the snorting smart interviewer stated. I was overcome with shame and regret, but I had no answer. I'm sorry, I said in a low voice. Incompetent people are not accepted, the interviewer stated with a contemptuous expression. You can now depart. Please. Even the comprehensive documentation of the software I had created and brought with me was not acceptable. What had happened frightened me too much. After all, ineptitude is still incompetence. I said hello to the interviewer, hung my head, and walked out of the room. I was having a difficult time finding a job. Up until that point, I believed that. I'm 21 years old and go by Michael Johnson. I became addicted to programming in middle school after experimenting with my uncle's computer. My parents stated, if that's what Michael decides, then it's fine by us. When I told them I wouldn't be attending college after high school, they didn't chastise me because they loved me. In the eyes of my parents, I am a baby. How old I get is irrelevant. I could never bring myself to vehemently disagree with my loving parents, even though it felt like all of my friends were going through rebellious times and having arguments with their parents. Maybe as a response, I would passionately immerse myself in programming whenever I felt unsatisfied. I was totally engrossed when I was in front of my computer. I would be filled with excitement and hope, and all of my anxieties would go. I immersed myself deeper in programming each day as the number of school days decreased. I began making basic games and social networking sites in this way. Every time I had an idea, I tried to come up with it right away. I continued living like that for a while. Every time I received feedback from users on my projects, I felt validated in my efforts. I'm not sure what kind of job I'll end up in, but if I could continue doing this, it would be my dream come true. This is my calling. That day too, I woke up past noon, having skipped school. I turned on my computer even before putting on my glasses. As soon as it finished booting up, I sat up, still tousled from sleep, and peered at the screen. Then I saw an email had arrived. The moment I saw the sender, my body tensed, and I broke out in a sweat. This can't be real, a prank or a mistake. My sleepiness vanished instantly, and I decided to go downstairs to the living room to calm down. Good morning, Michael. Do you want breakfast? I was thinking of preparing lunch in about 30 minutes, my mom said, nibbling on some crackers while reading the newspaper. My dad was clipping his nails on the porch. Looking out the window, I saw a plane floating in the cloudless sky. Hey Michael, it's a nice day again today, my dad said. His hair, streaked with gray, turned around as he smiled. I used to be told I looked like my mom, but lately it seems I've started to resemble my dad. Mom, I'll pass on breakfast. Can I get a coffee? Mom smiled warmly and headed to the kitchen, humming a tune. Even as I waited for my coffee, I couldn't stop thinking about that email. I'm just going to the bathroom. Leave the coffee for me. I decided I had to check it again. Without waiting for my mom's response, I dashed up the stairs to my room. I hurried to my computer and read the email again carefully. It was indeed from a well-known Japanese IT company that I recognized. The email was written in more polite English than I'd use. Can't be real. They wanted to buy my site, which I released 2 years ago, dedicated to a nerd community. It's a social site dedicated to the nerd community. I had noticed an increase in foreign users recently, but was it becoming popular overseas too? The email mentioned they wanted to discuss directly. My mind was completely overwhelmed. Feeling dizzy, I decided to go back to the living room. "What's wrong, Michael? You look pale. Do you have a stomach ache?" "It's not that, something big has happened." "Something bad?" My mom, who had been reading the newspaper, looked at me worriedly. "Actually, one Japanese company wants to buy my site." "Oh my God, that's amazing. But it might be a scam." "You won't know unless you try." "That's right. Why don't you take a chance and contact them?" Despite my worries, my parents were surprisingly enthusiastic. That's the thing with people who hardly ever use computers, they don't understand. But encouraged by my parents' words, I decided to reply to the email. Later, when I was offered an unimaginable amount for the site and decided to sell, I was incredibly nervous. With that money, I bought the latest computer and all the essentials for programming. I also took my parents to a fancy restaurant and contributed to my dad's car purchase. It was the least I could do to show my appreciation to my parents. You tolerated my exclusive lifestyle. I was indebted to the Japanese company. However, life changed drastically in the fall. My dad passed away suddenly from a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Losing my healthy dad so suddenly, my mom became deeply depressed. Of course, so did I. Was that tough for you? So does that mean you need to start exploring the outside world soon? As a naive person, I talked to a friend I met on the internet, who I didn't even know. Black Cat is the handle of the friend I connected with through a hobbyist online game. By the way, Abby's is my handle name. We mainly talk using chat, and from what I can tell, Black Cat is a man. Though I've never asked his age, he's probably older than me. "Why, it would be great if there's a company out there willing to hire me," I said. Black Cat kindly encouraged me as I felt down. "You're trying things you've never done before. It's natural to struggle. Job hunting seems like a distant memory for me, but I'm always here to listen if you need me." Online gaming reminded me that there are real people on the other side of the screen. His words warmed my heart, filled with nothing but anxiety about my suddenly changing circumstances. So I received advice from Black Cat on how to write a resume, points to highlight about myself, and tips for the interview. Well, it'd be great if Abby's had some standout achievements to brag about. When prompted about achievements, I remembered the site I had sold to a Japanese company. "Why don't you bring some material that introduces the site?" Black Cat suggested this, advising me to keep the details vague to avoid revealing my identity. I see. If the company sees it, they might evaluate my skills. Following Black Cat's advice, I prepared the presentation material. With my job search prep complete, I started attending interviews at several companies. Big corporations wouldn't even consider me without a college degree, so I sent my resume to as many small companies as I could. But few were willing to interview a high school graduate with no formal experience. I hadn't attended a vocational school, and my programming skills were entirely self-taught. Plus, I was a recluse. If I were an employer, I wouldn't take a chance on someone with such high risks. Though I understood this, each rejection email made me feel more isolated from the world, as if a hole had opened up in my heart. I could live off the money from the site sale for a while, but I wanted to reassure my dispirited mom as soon as possible. My anxiety was growing. It was Black Cat who cheered me up during those anxious moments. "Our company is looking for programmers too. If things don't work out, come work with us." I took it as a joke, but those words lifted my spirits. I didn't know where he lived or what his company was like. "I'll count on you there." Such casual exchanges helped me calm down a bit. Even after getting rejected by many companies, I never gave up, and I was at another interview today. The company I was interviewing with today offered website and e-commerce site management services to local businesses. I applied because their job listing stated no experience necessary. Programmers wanted. "Huh, so you spent the time you could have been in college on programming?" The interviewer today was the same as always, looking down on me with a disdainful attitude. His name tag read James. So you've just been doing what you like, huh? What if you encounter something you dislike at our company? Are you just going to quit? I scrambled to think of a response to James' words. As you've pointed out, I lack work experience. However, I have a strong foundation in programming and a strong desire to utilize it. I've come to your company's interview with the determination not to quit easily. I looked James straight in the eye and answered. Did I manage to convey that well? I was meant to be celebrating, but James, looking at my resume, said, But you know, Michael, your track record is pretty bad. I can't find any compelling reasons to hire you. But could you please take a look at this? I have experience creating my own website. Saying that, I tried to take out the presentation materials I'd prepared with Black Cat's advice from my bag. However, James chuckled at my actions. What are you talking about? A no experience, no hire like you is a definite rejection. Please go home. Thrown by his words, I didn't know how to respond and ended up apologizing meekly. I am sorry. James sneered at me and loudly said, If you're going to apologize, then don't bother coming to an interview. What a complete waste of time. Being yelled at out of the blue made me shrink even more. Finally, James offered a thin smile and recited a standard farewell. Thank you for your time today. We will inform you of our decision in 2 to 3 days. Thank you. After the interview, I couldn't bring myself to go straight home. I found myself aimlessly sitting in a park near the company until it gradually got dark. Again, it didn't go well again. Feeling my life was enveloped in darkness, I wondered if having gone to college would have given me more options for living, sparing me from such struggles. Of course, I knew it was futile to blame myself now. Feeling miserable about my pathetic self, I couldn't bear the thought of going home and facing my mom. I decided to at least send a message to Black Cat about the interview. He's probably going to be fed up with me by now. As tears threatened to spill, a pleasant aroma wafted into my nose. It was coming from a nearby pub. I wondered if it was normal for working people to stop by places like this after work. I wouldn't normally consider entering such a place, but I didn't want to be alone today. I wondered if it might lift my spirits and open the pub's door. Hello, how many people? The cheerful greeting made me timidly indicate I was alone. I was guided to a seat at the counter, where it was relatively empty since it was still early. After receiving the menu from the staff, I ordered a few dishes. The simple, comforting flavors seemed to soothe my weary soul. As I enjoyed my meal alone, a pair of men were led to the seats beside me. 2 guests, right this way to the counter seats, the staff said. I glanced over at the man who sat next to me, and to my surprise, it was James, the interviewer I had met earlier that day. Hey, aren't you? He said, clearly recognizing me and initiating the conversation. Do you know each other? Asked the man accompanying him. He had a shaved-side hairstyle, glasses, and appeared older than James. Yes, James replied. He came to our company for an interview today. Ah, so you're into programming too, huh? The man asked. Yes, I am, I replied. But the memory of how the interview had gone made my tone unintentionally curt. The man with glasses didn't seem to notice and continued, Did you study at a vocational school? Come on, Tom, that almost sounds like another interview. His interview's already over, James interrupted with a light chuckle. Oh, that's right, sorry, Tom said apologetically. Well, I didn't pass anyway, I added with a self-deprecating laugh. Is that so? Tom looked at James. James shrugged and replied, Yeah, I mean, he's a high school graduate with no work experience. Plus, he's self-taught in programming and mentioned making his own website. Hearing that again brought a tightness to my chest. But then something unexpected happened. A website you created yourself? Tom asked, sounding genuinely curious. Can you tell me more about it? Surprised by his interest, I decided to show him the presentation materials I hadn't been able to present during the interview. Tom took them eagerly and looked them over with growing enthusiasm. Wait, is this the site you sold to a Japanese company? He asked. James looked confused as Tom grew visibly excited. The site I created had evolved from a small online community into one of the top-ranked social networking platforms in Japan. I was stunned by how far it had come. Tom, however, seemed to instantly recognize its significance. Anyone who's ever aspired to be a programmer has probably heard of this site at least once. I never imagined the person behind it would walk into our company for an interview. What's your name? Michael. Michael Johnson. That's it. No doubt about it, Tom said with conviction. James, meanwhile, looked visibly uncomfortable. You rejected such a talented person? Tom asked, his voice sharpening. Just by looking at these materials, you can clearly see his potential. What exactly are your criteria for interviews? James started to stammer, his face turning pale. Maybe you've been letting talented people slip through all this time, Tom continued. If that's the case, James, you're definitely getting fired. It turned out Tom had been investigating complaints about the company's hiring process. Despite advertising that no experience was necessary, many applicants were being turned away, often after enduring James's intense and intimidating interviews. His methods, including shouting and stress tactics, were damaging the company's image. I'll be reporting this at tomorrow's executive meeting, Tom said firmly. Be prepared. James quickly excused himself and left the pub, almost as if fleeing. Thanks to Tom, I was hired. After completing a 3-month probation period, I officially became a full-time employee. My self-taught programming hadn't been in vain. As a newcomer to both the workforce and the industry, I'm still inexperienced, but I'm grateful to my senior colleagues who are willing to guide me. I aim to grow steadily in my role. As for James, he wasn't fired, but he was transferred to another department. His domineering behavior had long alienated his coworkers, so when Tom exposed the truth, no one defended him. Then something even more surprising happened. Good evening, ABIs. Congratulations on your job. The message came through a familiar chat app, Black Cat. Wait, no way. You're my boss? I typed, stunned. I never imagined we'd end up working together, he replied. Come on, just talk to me like you always do. It turned out Black Cat was actually Tom. The realization hit me like a bolt, especially when he recognized the presentation materials during our dinner. They were the same ones we had discussed online. I had once told Black Cat in a chat, if I can't find a job, I'd be honored to work with you someday. I hadn't expected it to come true so literally. And yet, here we were. I told you you'd be fine, he replied. I don't know how much that simple exchange saved me, but I'm grateful for it. Today, as I took my first real steps into adulthood, I visited my dad's grave with my mom. Standing there, I quietly reported the news. I got the job, Dad. I've been relying on you and Mom for so long. I'm sorry. But from now on, I'll do my best. My mom, eyes filled with tears, gently hugged my shoulder. Michael, whatever you decide, I'm sure your dad is supporting you from wherever he is. And so is your mom. With the kindness and love of my parents in my heart, I made a silent promise. To grow, to work hard, and to give back, if only a little, for everything they've given me.